My name is Anuranjan. I've been an in-house counsel now for almost 24 years. I've been working with Baxter as a counsel for India, Southeast Asia, and Korea. This has been like 10 years that I've been with the company. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hiranmai Rallabandi. I have had about more than two decades of experience across different verticals of the industry, being literally industry agnostic, whether it was media, edtech, real estate, and now with WeWork. And believe me, when I tell people that I am the general counsel for WeWork, oh, is it the only one? Or are you the only company that works? Do you mean we don't work? That's what I hear most of the time, but no pun intended. Yes, we all are here to work. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mukul Shastry. I'm the general counsel for Cube Highways. I started as a litigating lawyer, went into academics, taught for a few years as assistant professor in National Law School, then went to RBI, joined RBI as a legal officer. As Justice Sikri said that earlier, there was only law officers and there was no concept of GC or anything else. After RBI, then I did my MBA and then started my career in private sector for the past 10 years. Then I headed legal divisions and functions for Case International, Adani Group, Wellspun Group, and now currently with Cube Highways. Interestingly, in my team, we have people who are reporting into me who are not purely lawyers. As Dr. Batra said, there are people like engineers from IIT, they are CAs, they are fraud investigators. It's a very interesting and diverse profile now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Prarabdha Jaipuriar. I have about 15 years of experience as a law practitioner. For the last 10 years, I'm in SUEZ as a general counsel for India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So starting my career in 2007, and back then there was, of course, not as much traction for in-house roles, but then around 2013, I joined SUEZ. I never thought that I would stay in an in-house role for very long, but here I am 10 years down the line, still in the role. So looking forward to this discussion.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarat. I'm a traditional real estate and property lawyer. My practice had started in Bombay. I started with DSK Legal, and after DSK Legal, I've moved on to Nucleus Office Parks, which is an asset management platform for commercial assets for Blackstone in India. I've traditionally dabbled with real estate and property and corporate M&As, and I'm happy and looking forward to a very detailed discussion with the jury here. Over to you, Kunal.
Thank you very much. I welcome you all on this discussion on changing roles today. And let me start by saying, as Justice Sikri had said, world of GCs was very different in 99. I came in this profession in 2003. The world of GCs was still the same as would have been in 99, I'm sure. When we were in college, we were asked to sit for some interviews, and I sat for an interview. I got an offer from Tata Steel to join as a legal manager. And at that time, when we went out and spoke to everybody, and they said, "Arey nahi, kya karna hai? Legal manager, glorified clerk banna hai kya?" So that was the mindset then. 25 years down, role of GCs has become one of the most important entities, whether it is professionally run or it is promoter-driven companies, or even in fact in government and PSUs, where the role of lawyers and GCs is becoming increasingly important. I want to hear from all of you, and to start with Anuranjan, as to how the role has changed now post 2015, and what is it that you are contributing to the entities, organizations. Your view, please.
Thanks, Kunal. And I think Dr. Batra and Justice Sikri have already set the stage for this discussion. I'll not go back too much into it, but I started my career in 99, but I very quickly moved as an in-house counsel. And looking back since then, I think the kind of importance the legal function has got within the organization, I can feel the change. I'm a living example for that. I can feel the change, that the importance that the organization has started giving to the counsel. Like what Kunal said, that the perception of being a postman, clerk, whatever that, how it was perceived earlier, that definitely is far away from truth. As a general counsel, today, I think there are a lot of opportunities. And when I talk about opportunities, both from on a personal front, as a general counsel, you can do a lot. You have the expectation of the organization is for you to be part of everything that is possible, because everything has got an implication. Everything has a corporate implication. Everything has got a reputational implication. So the expectation is very high. So the councils also have to be driven by their own ambition, that how much they want to drive and how much they want to own it up. Because for me, if I were to categorize today, what does a corporate look for when they're hiring a general counsel, or for that matter, even anybody in a legal team? They expect that people are willing to expand and get into a business mode. The skill of a lawyer and the knowledge of a lawyer is probably taken for granted. And people expect you to have a business mindset, to understand what the business is doing. And to me, it's a very, very, very important difference between an in-house counsel and an external counsel. As an in-house counsel, we understand the business a lot. And when we are framing an example or an opinion for anybody for a communication, the role of legal counsel or a general counsel becomes very, very critical. So for me, if I were to summarize in 2 lines, the role of general counsel has become very critical, and it has evolved from being a legal advisor to be a business advisor. And something that business advice is coupled with legal advice, making the business more sustainable and long lasting for its shareholder and stakeholders. So that's how I'll summarize the growth of the legal.
Thank you, Anuranjan. Any one of you have any views on the changing roles, or should I move on to the next topic?
I just wanted to echo exactly what Anuranjan said, and I think Dr. Batra and Dr. Justice Sikri, what you'd also said. I mean, it's about, this is my personal experience where we've actually got in our goals, or the OKRs as we call it, a target, right? There's a financial target that we have, which I don't think so you would have ever heard that the general counsel would have. But we have that target wherein we're supposed to look at how we can optimize budgets. And Dr. Batra, what you talked about, cross-selling. What is the business that I'm getting? And it's just not about how much I'm saving or how much am I recovering. What is it that I'm working with the other teams from a strategy perspective, and how can I actually get revenue? So, and also a seat at the board. My personal experience in my previous company also, I was on the board of literally all the entities across Asia Pacific for my company. Currently also, I'm on the board of one of our subsidiaries, and also any further acquisitions. It's taken, it's a said this thing that yes, I will be on the board, because it's the value that I get to them, not just from my legal acumen, but from my strategy, but from my business acumen, how I can not just be proactive, but how I can be predictive. I think that's where our value addition is.
Thank you very much, Hiranmai. So let me pose another question to you all, and maybe you can answer that question, Mukul. There is a management expectation that the business has or the top management has. Now, I want you to focus primarily on the expectation that the management has from a professionally driven management or a promoter driven management, or maybe even public sector undertaking. So how is it different, and how would you answer that management expectation, which may be different from different kind of managements?
Right. Thanks. Very interesting question. Obviously, based on what kind of organization you are, certain changes are there. So when, like they say, when you are an Indian promoter, driven company, the approach may be slightly different. When you are completely in MNC or we are very professionally driven environment, the expectations are different. And when you are in a public sector, the expectation is different. But before coming and explaining these differences, just one small point on the changing role of GCs is that now, obviously, we are the business facilitators. We are the one who are now part and parcel of the business decision making. But then again, alongside that, we are the only ones who have to be the conscience keeper also, because business has to be done. But then we have to ensure that it is within the four walls or of the regulatory framework. Now, that is what is the most key challenge that we face in our day-to-day working operations. Now, having said that in mind, coming to the three aspects to it, like suppose if you're an Indian promoter company, if you are completely driven by a promoter, now there the expectation is that you have to be more of a business facilitator because the business has to grow faster. And at times they feel compliances and other things are a backseat, and at least they think that this is something which was going to drag their business down. And there, the most important challenge for a GC is to convince that how even these challenges, these smaller things, which right now are looking very innocuous, can be a bigger challenges later. And that is how you have to develop the framework and risk mitigation circumstances that properly, so that even Indian promoters or those setups, they understand that if today I completely ignore these things or just let that go under the carpet, it is going to haunt me later in a bigger way. And that is your convincing abilities. That is how you put across those things to the board. And that is where that skill set comes in. In a very professional company, when everybody is a professional, they understand these things already. And therefore, that convincing is that less. But then when it's a professional company, they expect a larger framework, a better framework, sometimes maybe the best of the industry practices they want to be in. And that also to ensure that does not hamper the business. Because the business, irrespective if it's a professional driven business or an Indian promoter driven business, the business is the main engine and you are to facilitate the business. So that mindset changes. When you're in a public sector, I feel it's a very different ballgame altogether, especially when you are in a public sector like RBI or when a regulator. There, the aim is obviously to facilitate business, but then their main aim is to ensure that whatever your repercussions are, you have to see what is the impact of it. Like generally we say the Supreme Court judgments, we have to see them, what is their impact overall. When you make the judgment, it can have huge impact on the polity of the country or on the economy per se. And therefore, once you are a regulator, when you are advising something, you have to see from that angle that what is the impact of my decision making, what is the impact of my opinion, and therefore your role changes accordingly. So this is what I feel is the difference between the three.
Thank you very much. Since Mukul touched upon conscience, I wanted to ask Prarabdha, how would you keep the conscience of the organization right? I mean, there are so many compliances to be done. There's CSR, ESG, etc. So I think it's very important because all the compliances ultimately falls on the head of the general counsels and its team. So how would you keep it right, keeping in view the larger perspective or the objective of the organization?
Thanks for the question. Interestingly, the company that I work for, I represent SUEZ India. It's being a subsidiary of a French company. We are governed by something called a SAPA 2 law, which is an equivalent of FCPA or UK Bribery Act. So for such companies, we have an elaborate ethics and compliance program, which has several components. We call them the 8 pillars, which includes trainings, having a policy, whistleblower schemes, and all that. So I would say that such a program, an ethics and compliance program, is one very important way to ensure the buy-in of everyone in the organization. So it also has the component of tone from the top. So that helps you create a culture of compliance in the organization. And on top of that, in your engagements with the board, in your engagements with business leaders, because most of the GCs today are part of the executive committee of the company. So for example, I am part of the local executive committee, the group general counsel of SUEZ, and Sophie, she is part of the group executive committee. So at those levels, we have the, I would say, the capacity, the authority to drive the culture. Thankfully, the business leaders of the day are themselves quite sensitive to the idea of being a compliant business, being a consensus business. So that helps. Of course, ESG is something which is taking the center stage very fast, very, very fast. And businesses have to kind of keep pace with that. more importantly, markets are driving businesses to keep pace with ESG. So which is a good thing. As soon as you see the money being driven by that, it's easier to take decisions in that direction. So I would say it's a mix of some rule-based system and some I would say some serious leadership decisions which drive that culture of compliance and being ethical and conscientious in a company.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take this point a bit further, keeping the conscience right. We have a lot of industries today which are running on a self-regulatory mode. Like, for example, OTT, as Justice Sikri had mentioned, broadcasting for that matter. And there are many other businesses which are on self-regulatory mode. As a general counsel, ultimately the entire obligation of ensuring that the self-regulation is complied with largely falls on general counsels. So how would you, as a general counsel, balance that aspect between maybe the business or the creator and the law which is prevalent?
Thanks, Kunal. Before I answer this question, I think I'll take a step back. And your first question was, how did the role of general counsel change? So on a lighter note, guys, I was representing a law firm, and usually, when you send out those first cut drafts, you have a lot of those balloons and comments for younger lawyers. We just say, "Oh, client to confirm," clients to confirm commercial call. Suddenly, when you flip onto the other side, and when you come in-house, you're the one who has to take that call. So that's ideally what the role change has happened since you become a GC. As far as business goes, there has to be a balance between business and the legal profession. When, as an in-house lawyer, what are you expected at the board to do? You are supposed to ensure that there is a industry that is relying on your advice, a profession that is that you are backing, and ideally everything that you advise has or is going to have a business impact. So essentially, you have to wear two hats at the same time. You're a lawyer as well as a businessman. Dr. Batra actually mentioned about aspect that there is a lot of cross-pollination that happens when you are a GC. Coming from the real estate industry, some of the best people to work with in the real estate industry have been architects. These architects are the guys who basically will teach you the basics of real estate. And that has really helped me in my career and my real estate understanding, sort of have understood what the real essence of certain laws that were established. And to answer Kunal's question on the second aspect, Kunal, self-regulation, I think Prarabdha mentioned it's more of a culture thing. And as long as your organization backs it, the leaders understand it. I think in today's world, India is a growing economy. We are very aware of what the practices are. We are very aware and in line with the compliance requirements across. And I think if you have the board support, I think you will do well. And you will be able to send the message across. Despite it being a challenge with the business team, I think you'll still do well.
Right. Thank you. No, so the first round is over with all 5 of them giving their views. I'm an external counsel and have always been an external counsel. It has been a changing experience for me when I deal with a lot of GCs, at least when I used to. Since I now do primarily counsel practice. So GCs, according to me, are really on top of things because they understand the business and they are able to gel that business into law very well. I think the second very important aspect, as I see it from standing outside of the organizations, is that gone are those days when GCs would just sit there and send their comments and say, "Ye comment hai, just have a look at it and get it filed or complete this particular document." GCs and their teams are on top of those documents. They know the facts better, and they would sit with the external counsels to ensure that proper work is generated, and then it is sent out to the management. So the involvement of the general counsel has become very large in the organization, is what I perceive it as. Also, I think the management generally does not want to move without having a view of the GC. More than even an external counsel, because GC will always have a business-oriented approach. External counsel will always have a, very legalistic kind of an approach. So I think that's the main role changing that has happened that I've seen dealing with so many GCs over the last 20 years. Any views on that aspect?
No, I think that's a very good call out, Kunal. As I said, you get a seat on the table. People expect some delivery from you. So gone are the days where you would actually give your advice and let business take a decision. It's more like a consensual decision that happens where legal has to give a recommendation or predictive judgment, what you may call. So I think there are certain expectations which have come out very clearly as the role of the GC has broadened. And as I said, it's also driven, given the organization is willing to give opportunities to the legal profession, it's also the duty of the legal professional to take it up and make most of it. As we saw and we hear a story about Aditya Ghosh, probably he was the first in the context of Indian environment where he went on to become from a legal advisor to the CEO. So I think at least it seems to me as a good opportunity with the broadened role of the general counsel.
In addition to that, just one small thing I would like to add. Not all depends upon the industry also. Like for example, I have been working in infrastructure industry throughout. Now, infrastructure is something which is a very complex industry. Why? Because the investments are very heavy, very capex heavy industry, and the payback is very long. Means you have to invest for 8 years, 10 years. So in that industry, the business decisions have to be robust. Now, if you have a business decision whereby after 2-3 years you find out that there's something which is a complete no-go area. So what we do is, like in our discussions, and I'm being part of all the important business decisions in the company, so we divide the things into 3 areas. One is the complete no-go areas, which are completely clear that this is where law is absolutely clear that you cannot do these things. So these are complete buckets, and these action items to be completely removed. Second is certain gray areas whereby there are rules, there are interpretations, there may be opinions, and you can do these things, but then still it has not been tested in the laboratories of court. We do not have enough precedents to say with clarity that this is how the ball is going to play out. And last is the complete green areas, complete go areas, which is absolutely clear that you can do these things. These actions are completely clear from regulatory compliance legal framework. Now, when these 3 decisions are there in the boardroom, then it helps even the business decision makers to make the right strategies, because then they know that, okay, these are the no-go areas, these are the areas which I am to take a business call at times, and the call may go wrong also. And these are the go areas, and then they can make the puzzles accordingly, and then the business decisions are more effective. And that comfort comes when the GC is there in the board meeting. GC is giving them that comfort. Here, these are the no-go areas, these are the go areas, and these are the gray areas, and I can back it up to this extent. So that comfort helps in business decision making. So that's what I'm saying. That is how the rules have changed.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll now come to one of the most talked about topics in these days, which is the artificial intelligence. There is also a discussion these days whether AI is going to replace lawyers or not. While I have a view they can never, but let's today discuss about whether AI and how, as the general counsel, can you integrate AI into your systems? Because ultimately, rather than looking at AI as a replacement agency, why don't we look at integrating it into our system and using it for our benefit? How would you do that, Hiranmai?
Yeah, I think that's actually a very interesting question and the need of the hour, because I think general counsels across are debating as to how you can actually integrate that AI into your systems. How for your own team, you're trying to convince them, look, AI is not going to take away your jobs. It is only here to increase in-house efficiencies, especially when the pressure from your CEOs and your board, your management is to integrate technology into each and every service to, at the end of the day, improve customer efficiencies, right? So how do you do that? So what I have been talking to my team about is on a couple of aspects. Obviously, very first thing is how can you use AI for your research? I think that is one place where it definitely works, right? Even if we have to write articles, I mean, we've seen how ChatGPT has been these days, right? How much you can actually use it to research, create an article, give an opinion. Obviously, it is at the very nascent stage, but how you can actually cash in on those and see how best can you form your own opinions, right? And how you can give that to the management, how you can do a risk analysis. This is where your AI has the maximum capacity to actually increase your efficiencies. We have a RACI matrix everywhere, right? As just Mukul talked about the go, no go, what is it? So I have implemented something called the risk versus reward for me to really understand how do I go about taking a particular risk, right? On the margins of the reward. Now, how do you analyze that risk, right? Risk is generally your impact, your probability, plus the velocity once the impact is there, right? So that's where I think you can use the AI to arrive at that and be able to provide those solutions. I mean, I really don't think it's an impediment for me.
Any views, Prarabdha?
Yeah, so in fact, I was just going through a survey report, a GC survey report, which was published, I think, last week. And two interesting data points. 67% of the GC surveyed said that they will increase the use of AI, whereas 80% said that they are not using it today. And this was the third survey. Interestingly, the data of GCs not using AI was 67% 2 years ago. Now it is 80%. So does it mean that GCs started it during COVID period and then they have kind of backtracked? So interesting data point, but good point is that more and more are saying that they will use it in future. So we are, of course, geared up. Of course, everyone wants to use AI. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a panel discussion on use of AI in alternate dispute resolution and all. We have a very interesting panel coming up on that. So I hope we will have something to hear on that. So very interestingly, there are supportive roles that AI can play there in dispute resolution. There can be substitutive roles. There was discussion about AI being the fourth party in arbitration. So a lot to happen there. Whether we are there yet, not sure, but whether we are headed in that direction, of course we are. Whether it will substitute, I agree with you, no, it will not.
Yeah, I think that's probably the answer we want to give to everybody, that it cannot replace, but you never know how AI is going to modulate itself in future and what surprises it throws at us.
Sorry, if I may add, there would be these challenges coming up. Once we would have grappled with AI, there would be quantum computing out there. So there would be challenges that we will have to keep abreast with and update ourselves to face. So of course, there would be governance issues coming up with quantum computing. How would we make it equitable and things like that? So as GCs, it will be our responsibility to step up and see how we can address that. Yeah.
Right.
Also the liability issues that we have in the AI, right? It may generate a product tomorrow. So it may probably generate products, it may deliver products, but at the end of the day, where does the liability rest, right? Because at the end, it's still an artificial intelligence, right? So whom do you sue? The GCs will still have to work around. The legal team still has a lot of grappling to do to that extent, right? Who owns that product? Is it the AI, right? Who takes responsibility for that? So tomorrow if something goes wrong, who is sued? Right. So these are questions that we're all grappling with from an AI perspective. From that perspective, you always need a lawyer to work around those liability issues, aspects, suing, litigation. So there's a lot. I do not think in any manner that AI will replace any of us.
So,
I just wanted to, as a general counsel, one of the things is to manage the legal budget. And it's an extremely challenging thing. So when it comes to technology, I think while there may be intricacies and challenges that we may see from a legal perspective, but can we say that it is not going to come in our area of work? Probably, I find it extremely challenging. I think we have to adopt technology to make our own function more efficient, because it's also that when we are hiring a resource, we have to show a productivity. Now, how much time you want your legal manager to spend on a standard form of a contract? Would you like to use a technology or would you like to use a resource? So I think doing a cost benefit analysis, I think there would be a technology adoption. And as Justice Sikri was alluding to, chief legal operation means officer, that role is going to become very, very important in times to come. I think there are a lot of companies who have already created that role, and we see that there are efficiencies that are being built on that.
Yeah, just to add a small thing to there, that now we have seen even virtual courts coming up. So therefore, what I want to say, and obviously Anuranjan has already mentioned a lot of things, what I wanted to express. But one thing is there, that what I feel next 2, 3, 4 years, all the mundane legal work will be shifted to technology, but the strategic stuff, the liability stuff will still be on the GCs and on the human lawyers.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. So,
I think Kunal, I think it's a current favorite topic, so good to add to this. I represent a franchisee which is probably one of the largest AI funds in the world. We have a global mandate to adopt AI into all kinds of functions. So it is here to come, it is here to stay, especially us as GCs. The faster we adopt, I think the better it will be. And I think we have to look at it as a friend rather than a foe, because we have seen results. It is giving out those simpler answers are easier to get in that sense. The off the hand kind of things are easier to get. So yeah, I think the acceptability of this kind of technology should be mandated across.
So I wanted to in fact ask you this question, since you are in real estate. AI can be a great facilitator in real estate at least, but how do you see it as a great facilitator in your industry?
So, okay, Kunal, let me give you an example of the business that we do. We as a group manage commercial assets and solar powers across the country. Operationally, the cost of managing an asset is very, very high. I mean, it is. If I give you the numbers, it would be a surprise. When you dwell AI into a lot of the operational work of a commercial building or even a solar park, the efficiency and the price reduction at different steps that it suggests or recommends ends up looking very well in the balance sheet. So maybe that is one integration that can be looked at. And I think simply people at various stratas need to understand that, AI will give you answers. Sometimes, it's not possible to get those answers, and your seniors or your other professional colleagues may not be around to give you those answers. AI may be able to give you those answers. And okay, of course, it's up to you to understand and look at the liability part of it. But, you have an answer at least to begin with. You have a starting point. I think that's where we are.
Okay. So since we are short on time, I'm going to ask you one last question, all of you. And anyone can give their views. Where do you see the role of GCs going from here on in the next maybe 10 years?
Two things I'd like to use this forum to advocate first. One is that GCs should be recognized as KMPs by amending the Indian Companies Act, because now the time has come when GCs should be treated at par with CEOs and CFOs legally also.
But that has its own obligations.
That has an obligation. I'm saying for the obligation part only, because see, a GC cannot sit outside and take business decisions with no responsibilities. If you really want to be a part of the board, you have to be part of the decision making. You have to be part of that risk itself the business is taking. You cannot be a business facilitator when you're completely outside the liability framework. So that doesn't work. That is one. And second is, as Justice Sikri said, I totally agree with that now the time has come that GCs should be treated as advocates by amending the Advocate Act. It will solve two problems. One is that it will give a larger pool of lawyers or of people from whom even the benches can be filled, even the problem of vacancies can be filled, because GCs with their 20 years, 15 years experience are expert in that industry, in that sector. So that kind of benches can be filled by these people. And second is the privilege part will help GCs having a freewheeling conversation with their business counterparts.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else on this?
Yeah, and just to add to what probably Mukul said, I totally agree with him on every aspect. I also see the GCs actually being in a part of all the board of directors. I do not see them staying away from the board. Currently, if you're a corporate secretary or a company secretary, you have an added advantage in the board. But without even the corporate secretarial aspect, considering that we are the custodians of the risk and there is no decision that is being taken without us in mind, the moment you're on the board, it is for sure understood that yes, they will be a part of the entire strategy of the company. And I've also seen that there are a lot of encouragements from the current management, wherein a GC is asked to actually take up courses which are not purely legal, but any kind of management courses and all, to ensure that they are able to head businesses. I think they're going to head vertical businesses. They will all have P&L to also manage. This is what I feel is going to be the future of all GCs.
Right. Thank you.
quickly to add to that, of course, even today, a lot of GCs are handling, Mukul and I were talking a while earlier, and both of us have non-lawyers working under us. So we are more and more getting into operational roles. What's also important, where I see GCs going from here, I think 10 years from now, GCs would, or not even 10 years, we are already in that phase where GCs are role models as well within the organization, because being in the function that we are, we manage ethics, compliances, things like that. So as a result, there are many initiatives in the company, DEI being one of them, where GCs are prominently the face of the company or are driving those initiatives within the organization with other teams like HR and all. Of course, apart from operational role, role model role, of course, GCs will have to themselves rediscover their own role. How do they want to position themselves vis-a-vis the external lawyer advisors advising them? Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So one or two questions, since we have such illustrious panel of general counsels, I'm sure. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Mamta Jha. I'm from Intel Advocate. My question, I have one comment and one question. One comment that I truly appreciate being a litigator, the cross-jurisdictional litigation when the GC takes over, and to put that effort that everything is consistent and integrated with the position which has been taken in different jurisdictions. So I think that's a commendable role which every GC plays. The second question is that the work-life balance issue, which from the firm side, everybody feels that the GC and the in-house counsels have a better balanced life. Is it correct, or do you also feel the challenges that you're striving to achieve the same?
Not at all, ma'am. It's a complete misconception. There's no work-life balance. It all depends. There are cycles. There will some times when you have to really work across time. I worked 4 days and 4 nights on the trot. So, and there are times when you are a bit relaxed. So it all depends upon circumstances. But coming to a GC position just to relax, I don't think so that works anymore.
In fact, the responsibility is much, much higher with the paradigm shift in how GCs are looking, right? I said it's just not the legal and compliance. You are the business for the company, and there's a lot of dependency on you. So as Mukul rightly said, there are times when we work for weeks and weeks where we haven't seen our families, but there are times when we've had relaxed days. So I think that's true for every, even law firm. When you have something that you have, it's an assignment or a project, there's no time limit. Otherwise, there are times. So it depends on the entire workload and how the office culture is at that particular point of time.
Thank you. It's good to know that.
And I think, let me add to that, ultimately for us as external counsels, we go to court or we do a particular transaction, we are done with it, and there's an adverse order, you come back saying there's an adverse order to the GC, and you say, okay, fine, file an appeal. That's what you can do as an external counsel. But the GC has to go back and explain that entire thing to 20 different people who don't understand the nuances of court, mostly. So I think role of a GC is something which is very difficult. So stress is quite large over there, I guess. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Varun Jain. I'm CEO at Singhania and Partners. So 3 months ago, I was on your side of the table. So I think this question is fair to ask. Maybe the others don't need to, but I need to. So first of all, I agree with everything you've said. I was worked with various companies, Google, Honeywell, pharmaceuticals, Gilead Sciences. So completely understand the change that your side of the table is seeing. My question is, now that I'm on the other side, on the external counsel side, have you seen the external counsel environment move in tandem with your needs? And also, has it changed the way you look at criteria when you're selecting your outside counsel support now? Thank you.
Varun, that's definitely the case right now. So there was a time when your external counsels would just be there to redline, or we'd probably just use them for CYAs. But of late, they've become more of our partners, right? So I think what for me personally, when I go for an external counsel, I'm looking for an external counsel who understands my business, who's there to help me take a decision and not just to, just redline and probably give me an opinion stating laws, that this is what law says, this is what the president says. That's something as a research my own team can do, or if I have an intern, I ask the intern, he'll just do it for me, he or she. But that's not what I'm looking for, an external partner. I'm looking for a partner who's able to, that's why I use the word partner, who's actually partnering me and helping me to take whatever decisions I can, right? Okay, telling me this is the law, this is how it works, these are the precedents, but yes, let's see how this works. You can probably take this risk, but I don't expect you to say you take the risk, but at least a recommendation to me saying that, yes, this could be solutions. And this is how, with our experience, we can tell you how this is what is viewed in the court as, or this is how the courts have taken a view on certain aspects, but this is how you can work considering our experience. So I think that's my main criteria, and not person who's just billing me for the heck of it. I think that's very important.
Right. Thank you very much.